Hello folks, it is time for another bit of a 40k rantage. We are here on a Thursday, we are heading down towards the weekend, and I hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, this week we were supposed to record a podcast for you all, the Grimdark podcast, but a few people aren't available, so we'll be doing that, recording that on Friday, and we'll be uploading it maybe next week, which would be really cool. So, I thought I'd come on and do a bit of a rant without a script, because it's been quite a while, at least a few weeks, maybe even a few months, since I've done so, where I've just had a little topic in my mind that I wanted to talk about, and I thought I'd come on and annoy you all with it. So, today's topic is lore in general, and more so, how the lore is treated by the vast majority of people who tend to be in the hobby. I am fully aware of how much I am an old man shouting at a cloud. I'm very much aware that I am somebody who likes things as they are, and tends to, as somebody who is really into lore and storytelling and writing and reading, I really value the sacrosanct nature of lore and how it should be treated and how it should be engaged with. But I do run the risk sometimes of being that person who, like that scientist guy from The Simpsons who's trying to teach the kids about, scientific algorithms and things. And he says, this is a really good toy, this is fantastic, it has all sorts of cells in there and things. Haha, it's brilliant. And the kids go, can I play with it? And he goes, no, you can't, you wouldn't understand it. And he goes back to playing with it and not letting them play with it, right? But I run the risk of being that guy with lore sometimes. I'm fully aware of who I am, so, I know I get it a lot in the comment section as well. But, saying that, the way that some 40k fans engage with the lore of 40k can sometimes lead me to roll my eyes and just want to take a step back from the entire thing completely. There is a reason why Space Wolf players get a really bad reputation on this channel, mainly because as a person who has a lot of friends who collect Thousand Suns, and myself, I collect Grey Knights, you get a lot of ire from Space Wolf fans. Now, again, this isn't like going into a store and getting bullied, quote unquote. No, I don't put up with that. I just tell you to go away or I'm going to slap you, sort of a thing. Do you know what I mean? It never really happens, and a lot of the Space Wolf fans that I come across in real life are actually pretty cool dudes. Most of them tend to be dads, jolly dads who just like Vikings in space, and more power to them. I've had very good games against Space Wolves in the past. To the point that when I go into a store now, especially with one-page rules, and I see a Space Wolf army, I'm looking forward to playing that guy, because he likes Space Wolves for the right reasons, you know what I mean? Especially if they're nicely painted. Really, really cool army to go with. They need more sculpts. They really do need more sculpts, the Space Wolves. But beyond them, then you go online. And Space Wolf fans online are mostly abhorrent. If you like anything other than Space Wolves, you're getting shouted at. If you have the temerity to post a video, and I've seen this on other people's channels a lot, if you have the temerity to post a video about Grey Knights or Thousand Suns, you go into the comment section and they are dogpiled by Space Wolf fans just doing jokes and trying to rile people up and things, and they tend to be weirdly not the only faction who does this in terms of fans, but they tend to be the faction that does it the most. It's an abhorrent number. It's a ridiculous amount that you go on there. Not only that, but they will bring up things like with the Grey Knight, the Silver Knight, who is confirmed by Games Workshop to not be a Grey Knight, by the way. Stop spreading that. There's another thing that I really hate about the 40k community when it comes to lore. Stop making shit up. All right, you've not read that. There have been so many times where I've been in a conversation with somebody, or I've seen somebody making an argument about 40k lore, and I've thought to myself, dude, you've not read that, because I know it doesn't exist. Right? You literally haven't read that. I know it doesn't exist. Okay? Same thing with the Silver Knight. If you're one of these people who goes around saying the Silver Knight was a Grey Knight, you don't understand 40k lore, right? Go and ask anybody who knows about what Games Workshop have said about that one story. They will tell you it's not a Grey Knight. We don't know what it is. That's the point. That it could even be, I've even heard people say, it could be King Arthur lost in the warp. That's a cooler story, and I want to expand on that story. But no, because you want to take down one of your rivals in terms of lore, it's got to be a Grey Knight. Dude, go swivel. Do you know what I mean? So you get it all the time online. And I'm using Space Wolves as an example because, well, it's the one that I see come up the most, and it affects me the most because I'm a Grey Knight player and I know lots of Thousand Sons players. So I see it coming up a hell of a lot. And it's one of those things where I just sit back and I go, dude, we're playing a game of toy soldiers and we're here just to enjoy the lore. Why can't anybody else enjoy their lore apart from you? And that's one thing I despise about folks in this hobby at times. It's literally, I've got my faction, I've got my lore, I'm allowed to enjoy my lore, and if you like anything else, you're an idiot. And here's why. Dude, no. We don't want to become a fan base that is like that. That's just awful, and I don't want that in the fan base. I just don't. It's a ridiculously toxic thing to do, and it gets trying. There are lots of people out there who say, well, ignore it then. Well, dude, it's hard to do when it's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. It is very hard to do. We've all seen those hobby nightmares of people going to tournaments and events and stuff and having somebody just, completely crap all over your army, or having somebody continually go at you because of rules or lore about your faction and things. Again, as a Grey Knight fan, I have to say this as well. They get an obscene amount of hate compared to what they are. Do you know what I'm saying? The Grey Knights get an extreme amount of hate from people for seemingly no reason whatsoever, because they seem to think that. And another thing, again, it brings me on to my next point. This fan base never seems to want to move on from anything. Okay, if you have a broken codex or a broken piece of lore that is written that is retconned later on, right? Forget about it. You're never shaking it off. It's always going to be there. People are always going to have a go at you for it. People are always going to think it's a personal insult to them if you bring the army that did that bit of lore, right? It's happening with Leagues of Votann. I got friends who don't bring Leagues of Votann armies to events anymore because that one codex was busted when it came out, and they still get people accusing them of cheating in an edition where Leagues of Votann are terrible. Imagine losing nearly all your games and still being accused of cheating, right? Happens all the time. I've got friends who are Dark Angels players who think twice about bringing their Dark Angels to events, especially when the Space Wolf fans there, because it's just going to be constant, your chaos, your chaos, your chaos, your chaos, pointed at them all the time. Even after Lionel Johnson has come back, and that's kind of been rolled back in the lore to not being true anymore. Doesn't matter. They're still getting it in the neck every single time they go. And do you know what? Some of it is playful banter. Some of it is just, dudes having a laugh. And I get it all the time. I've got Space Wolf friends who I go back and forth with all the time, having a bit of a joke and a laugh, right? But when you've heard it for the 8th or 9th time that day from different people, it starts to get grating. And you start to think, do you know what? I just don't want to be here. I'd rather be somewhere else. I'd rather be in a bar with a woman on my lap. Why am I here with these nerds playing this game? It just doesn't seem to compute with me on my brain, right? I'm not saying that I would do that. That's what you think, though, don't you? You'd rather be anywhere else than here. They don't let anything go. And Ultramarines are the only faction who seem to get away with that. Why? Because they lean into it. Ultramarines fans love annoying people because they get so much love in the lore. They get all of the cool models. They get all of the love from Games Workshop, and they lean into it going, yeah, but we're the best. So, everyone goes, yeah, well, you're just the poster boys. Yeah, you're damn right we are. Absolutely. You can't annoy an Ultramarines fan. It's really annoying because they're just like, yeah, I know. It's great, isn't it? How would you like being in our hobby? Are you enjoying it? Say things like that to you, right? So they're the only ones who get away with it, right? Because they've got average rules. You can basically make Ultramarines do what you want. They've got average rules, but their lore just kisses their asses so much. They're in every video game, and it's all that kind of thing. But everybody else, so let's look at the factions off the top of my head who have had really broken pieces of law or rules over the years. Grey Knights is one, right? I suffer from that all the time. Grey Knights had that Matt Ward Codex, the law, the carving the name into Mortarian's heart, that kind of a thing. Yeah, they had that. They had, their rules back then were absolutely busted as well. They were really, really, really good. As soon as they came out, they were phenomenal in terms of an army. I didn't play them back then. But they've never seemed to shake off the stink of that original codex, even when later codexes really nerfed them and made them second fiddle as psychic Astartes to even other loyalist Astartes that are in the game. They still get that rep. They still get people accusing you of being a cheesemonger or something else just because you play Grey Knights. You still get people accusing you of, you cover your arm in the blood of Sisters of Battle, even though that was, it's a thing that's so long ago. Anything from back then, basically retconned. We all know it is, right? Anything from back then, basically retconned. Anything from the early 90s to mid 90s, gone. It doesn't really exist anymore in 40k lore, so why are you bringing it up? It doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist. So, why are we here, right? Just because you can find it somewhere on Lexicanum doesn't mean it's lore, current lore. Which is why I get very frustrated with Games Workshop when they don't update lore in every single codex, right? With Grey Knights, essentially, we've had the same lore for the past 4 or 5 codexes. That hasn't really evolved or done anything at all. It's just stayed the same, right? So, we've had nothing new. And if you don't give anything new, all this taint, this horrible smell, never goes away from Matt Ward and people like him. It never, ever leaves. That's one example. The Leagues of Atan, another example, right? The Dark Angels, another example of guys who've had, certain... Their lore wasn't even broken. They didn't even do anything egregious, right? They just had a really cool, tragic story about half of some of their legion turning traitor and things, and from that, they got memed to death. To the point where people aren't bringing Dark Angels to tournaments because they know they're going to get it in the neck and they can't be bothered with it because they work jobs. These guys work jobs. They have lives, unlike other people in the hobby. They have lives, they have things to do, and you standing there squeeing and heavy breathing some joke you heard on the Emperor has a bloody text-to-speech device is not something they want to be hearing ad nauseum on a Saturday afternoon. It just isn't, right? I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, I know. And I like the Emperor as a text-to-speech device as much as the next person. But there's absolutely a part of me that just knows that every single time you watch an episode of that, you're thinking, oh my god, there's so many turds out there who are going to be repeating this to me ad nauseum constantly, and I can't be bothered with it, that kind of a thing. But the armies that I mean when I mentioned that kind of thing about the lore. You know what I mean when it comes to that stink never leaving, and the brainless of the hobby will always pile in and dogpile and say these things to you like they're actually saying something that's really funny when you've heard it 9 times before that day and you're restraining yourself from taking your Drago model and shoving it right up their fucking arse, right? It's just... no. It's one of the things about this hobby, and you know how much I love it, it's one of the things that I wish I could do away with. Unfortunately, the internet has only seemed to make this worse. You have cesspools like Reddit and Twitter, X now, whatever it's called, and the other one, the one for fannies, what's it called? Blue Cloud or whatever, yeah? I don't know. You know what I mean? There are... YouTube's one of those as well, by the way. If you go on a lot of people's lore videos for certain factions, you go down there and it's tribalism. It's tribalism. You'll get so many people just whinging and taking the piss and throwing insults at the actual faction who that video is covering, right? Happens all of the time. Do you know where else I've seen this phenomenon? Football. Okay? So, a personal thing from my life. I support Everton Football Club, right, in Liverpool. And it's a family thing, I wouldn't have done it if I had a choice. it's a family thing. And of course, I'm a very loyal supporter now, but, you know, there are some times over the past 20 years where I've gone, oh my god, I wish my family had made different choices for me. But it is what it is. Anyway, the other week, Everton played Liverpool in what is called the Merseyside Derby, Liverpool being our closest rivals, and we're their closest rivals as well. So, you know, the game ended in a draw, a 2-2 draw, and it was a last-minute goal from Everton that secured the draw. And it was a big game for us because it was the very last game, Merseyside Derby anyway, to be played at our current stadium, because we're moving stadiums. And it's an old stadium. It's been there since the 1800s, right? Mid-1800s almost. And, you know, it was a big moment. Only for me to go online and look at interviews about that game and from the blue side. So these are all Everton fan channels talking about the game and you know, what it means for the club and where we're going to go from here. And every single comment section is flooded with Liverpool fans just insulting the club and insulting our players and our fans and our manager and the referee and this and that and the other. And it just made me think, dude, this happens in 40k as well. This happens in 40k. It's tribalism. That's what it is. And we don't need it. We don't need it. It kind of belongs in football because it's an outlet for the working class, you know. And you'll always get trolls online. But the amount of people I'm now seeing on lore videos for factions they don't like going out of their way to talk shit, not just about the army that's on the video, but the people who collect that army. Dude, where do you get off? People have different tastes. Not everybody has to like the thing that you like. Not everybody is a degenerate furry who wanks himself off to the Vikings TV show, right? Not everybody needs to be that guy. Just is what it is, you know? You can like what you like. You would never catch me dead going on a Space Wolf video anyway, to be honest with you, regardless, right? But you would never catch me dead going on a Space Wolf video and taking the time out of my day to type a message that your faction sucks. Who has the time in the day to do that? I've said this before on this channel, if you have enough time to say something asinine in a YouTube comment, you need to look at your life again. You need to go back to the drawing board, my friend, because it ain't working. If you've got time to do that, you need to stop what you're doing, sit down, and reassess your life. You've got too much time on your hands. Or you care too much about this in a way that's unhealthy, right? I care a lot about this hobby. I've got a whole channel dedicated to it. But I'm not going to go on people's videos and start talking shit about the fans of other factions because why would I? It's a game of toy soldiers. What are you doing? Why would you do that? Stop. Just think for a minute, right? Just stop. We don't need this tribalism in the hobby. It's one of the worst things that we could be letting in, apart from the obvious, you know, politics and things. But apart from that, one of the worst things we can let in is this tribalism. And this is the thing. Joe the old man shout at cloud thing. I'm going to go into that mode now. It never used to be this way. Yeah, empirically it didn't. Go and talk to old greybeards, right? If you ever have the honour, talk to a guy like Rick Priestley or Andy Chambers. Guys who created the original, you know, editions of Warhammer 40,000 and set us on the course of what the hobby is and should be in terms of collecting these models and having fun with them. And they'll tell you, this wasn't there back then, right? You'd see somebody with a Black Templar's army, you'd think it was cool as shit. You see somebody in an Eldar army, you wouldn't call them pointy ears or girly, whatever. You know, you say, no, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And people who did say that kind of stuff, and they were around, don't get me wrong, in the Games Workshop, I heard the phrase girly Eldar quite a few times. They'd get scoffed at. They'd be like, dude, shut up. Eldar are cool. Even by people who don't play Eldar. Like, shit, dude, shut up. Eldar are amazing. They're awesome. Right? It'd happen all the time. You'd see them shout it down because the vast majority of gamers, the vast majority of hobbyists were there because they appreciate the hobby. They think every single facet of 40k is cool. They may not like it all. It may not be up their street. It may not be their favourite thing. Like, they may not like salamanders that much. Or they may not like, I don't know, Black Templars or whatever, right? Harlequins. They might not like all those things that much, but they still think it's cool because it's in the hobby and it's a cool thing that they get to kill. So I think it's awesome. It never used to be this way. And I'm unsure how much the internet has had to do with proliferating this unwanted tribalism that we have in the hobby right now. And it's getting worse. I've seen really laid-back, cool lore YouTubers, people like Wes Hammer, people like even Amber King's videos, if some of those, where you go into the comment section and there'll be like, depending on the faction, there will be quite a lot of people in the comment section not having a go at the video, right? Because they don't really watch the video. They're just there to stir shit. They're just there to talk down to people and say, no, your faction sucks, and ha ha ha. Here's all these times you've lost in the lore. Isn't that funny? Ha ha ha. Does it trigger you yet? And you sit there thinking, as an adult, as a grown-ass adult, you sit there thinking, dude, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? This is a place for discourse where we can talk and celebrate the lore, and you're just using it as an opportunity to score points in something that doesn't even exist. Like, no. And by the way, those are really cool lore channels that we're lucky to have. We're lucky to have dudes like Wes Hammer. We're lucky to have dudes like Amber King. Can we not go on their channels, please, and turn their comment section into absolute fucking cesspits? Can we not do that? Can we just refrain? Can we have a sort of, Reddit alarm that goes off? Like, if you've got a Reddit account, can it just go off and just not upload your comment? Because, like, the amount of times I've seen this occurring on really low-key... Even Voldemort's had it. Uncle Baldy's had it. Like, even Voldemort's had this in one or two of his videos. Where you're thinking, dude, what? Who takes the time to say this? Who has the time? Right? I don't know, man. That's just me. I don't like the tribalism in 40k lore these days. I think it's going way overboard, and I think the amount of arguments and actual, rants in terms of not rants like what I do when I've got it when I do it tongue in cheek for entertainment. I'm saying like frothing at the mouth rants. And you've ruined somebody's day because you have a different opinion about a set of toy soldiers than they do. Everybody, all of you have had that. I can guarantee all of you have had this. If you've been in the hobby for more than like a year or two, you've had this, right? Where you've had a conversation with somebody else in the hobby, and you've got a differing opinion to theirs, and it seems to have just ruined their day. They get really passive aggressive or really annoyed with you, or maybe you've even done that, where you've caught yourself. You've even done that, right? I don't know. It seems to be something that's really heightening in the hobby, and I don't think we need it. I honestly don't think we do. Like, rivalries, absolutely. Absolutely. Rivalries, completely with you on that one. We should all have our rival armies. We should all have armies that we naturally like fighting on the tabletop, because they like fighting on it in the lore as well. I'm with you on that one. Absolutely. Grey Knights, I love fighting Space Wolves on the tabletop, because I like to get my own back for the Months of Shame, which is one of the worst pieces of 40k lore that was ever written by anybody ever, right? But I love to get my boot in, and I don't say anything to the Wolf player about that. No, I stick the boot in. But if I'm having a friendly go back and forth, I might mention it. If they're mentioning something about my army, fair enough, They'll say Months of Shame, and I go, okay, well, you're going to have your game of shame, and we'll play on, and I'll try and beat them. Not lost against Space Wolves in a couple of years, by the way. I think the last time I lost was actually, I might have been working for Games Workshop against Space Wolves, and I played them a lot. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I just think it's getting a bit tribal, and we don't need it. Healthy rivalry is a thing. Having fun is a thing. That's fine. Absolutely. But aside from that, let's just take our foot off the gas, shall we, and enjoy the hobby together. That's what we're all here for at the end of the day. We don't need the tribalism. And that's my opinion. Alright, cool. Anyway, I love you all a long time. I'll speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.